Guy Cribb in the house. See you here, man. Amazing. So Guy has been a friend of mine for 35 years, and a huge supporter of Peace One Day. And thank you for all of that support. And you were always there amongst the waves, right from the very beginning, finding peace. I mean, we were all in awe of you, Guy, back then when we all met at 17. What you were doing on a windsurfer was just absolutely mind-blowing. And I just want you to just tell people, a little bit about that journey. Tell us about being a windsurfer.
Well, being a windsurfer positions you in the ocean. Like, that's where you are. You're in that whole environment out there. And you're working with the weather systems and all of nature's wildest storms, and so we're really fortunate to be so exposed out there. And it's a thoughtful place. It's a place of freedom. It's a place of vulnerability and some elements of danger that you're under pressure and stuff like that. And it's just a wonderful journey to be on. And I grew up in Poole Harbour, which is a fantastic place for young kids to kind of get in the ocean or the harbour, and it developed from there. So I was turned into a professional windsurfer around the age of 17 and competed on the world tour, and the journey has carried on all these decades, and it's still going strong in various forms.
Yeah. So listen, in terms of like finding peace, you've always been really relaxed. Even whenever I'm with you, you're always sort of consistently the same, which is a wonderful thing, right? And do you think like being out of the water so regularly amongst the wind and the waves and the sea and the elements, do you think that's had a real impact on your own inner peace?
Absolutely. I haven't had anything to compare it with. So that's how I've been all my life. I've always been in the ocean, and but I'm sure it's washed off on me completely. And it is a relaxing place because it's humbling. You're vulnerable out there, and I think it's important to look at your own vulnerabilities, and that can turn that creates you into a better person, a more considerate person, and so on. And so when you're out there in the ocean, we are fully wiping out, like you saw in the video and stuff like that. And so it is a peaceful. You find a peace with that kind of roughness of nature at its wildest. And I think you can be in nature in a forest, for example, or a jungle or whatever. You can see the trees moving and so on, but the land is always static. So I think the difference of being out there in the ocean is the whole world is moving and you have absolutely zero control of it whatsoever. And I enter the ocean with my sailing gear, which happens to be hydrofoiling wing gear at the moment. And I try and control it. And it's really difficult to control because it's being shaken around everywhere. And so you're really at the mercy of the weather the whole time. It's difficult to hold it together. And so it's a permanent kind of battle with nature, but it's also a shared experience. And so I think that ocean world is probably the best place to immerse yourself if you want to be really vulnerable, whether it's the depth of the water that freaks you out or the fish that swim around underneath you, or if it's just like yesterday I was out and there's a wildest storm coming up the English Channel. It was like 40-mile-an-hour winds and my equipment was being torn out of my hands and I was trying to hang on to it and I'm wiping out and I looked around, there's no one else at sea. It's nuts, and there's foam on the surface and you're bouncing up and down, and it's just wild. So even after 5 decades of this, it was still just brilliant to be out there and just at the mercy of nature in its wildest storms.
Yeah, I can't help but think as you talk about it that it's kind of like a metaphor, isn't it? I think the most metaphor, and I'm not very well educated, as you know, but I mean, it's like life. I mean, life is like that, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It is going to batter you at times, and it's going to be tranquil and quiet and sweet.
Yeah.
So I mean, is there some kind of understanding that you've created for you? Because when you talk about it, it seems like there is. Is there some kind of understanding of being out there and giving into it, allowing it to be without being frightened? Have you got some strength from that's allowed you to be able to embrace the kinds of things that come at us on a daily basis with life?
For sure, without question. I think you can find that in other ways too. I think in sport generally, you get, especially in competitive sport, you can only really deal with the things that are within your control, and you learn to ignore everything that is beyond your control. And the weather is always beyond your control. And so on a permanent basis, I have to understand that there's things that I really cannot control, and there's things that I can, so you focus on those. And when the weather comes in, or a storm in someone's life comes in, then you're better prepared to enter that environment, because you know there's things you can't control and there's things you can control, and then you try and just better yourself in the things that you can control.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, so Peace Day, like, you've always encouraged, I mean, we've all sort of encouraged each other, our mates Ben and Ben, who might be watching now, but, our lovely friends. But what I want to ask is, you've been really supportive of the journey of Peace One Day, always sort of there, as others have too, of course. But I want to know, what does Peace Day mean to you? What do you like about Peace Day?
Well, I mean, I love what you've done with Peace Day. I mean, your journey is nuts. I was just actually looking, it's great being here because I get to see all the old photos and some video of you 25 years ago when you look young and, you're still so ambitious and enthusiastic with it. It's incredible. But to see you looking so young at those early days with this amazing idea you came up with, I think one of the things that Peace One Day means to me is the journey that you've demonstrated, is that you start something really small, start anything. We're overwhelmed at the moment with so many environmental issues, and especially this summer, we've just witnessed an enormous amount of disasters really around the world, natural disasters. And so we're all trying to understand what's going on. And there's a plethora of different charitable events you can support, and causes you can care for, and so on. And so trying to work out which one to be associated with and support, and what you can do on a personal basis, is a very difficult task now, I think. We've got so much, like, what do we do? And you've demonstrated that you can start very, very small with just one day of the year, and if you start making a change just one of those 365 days of the year, then that will rub off. That will, if you're more conscious about peace today, or any environmental issue, or any personal conflict you might have, then just spending some time today will kind of rub off over the next weeks and the next months, hopefully, and it'll build. And your journey has demonstrated that. So in terms of what I would like to celebrate personally on Peace One Day, I think is just, or encourage people to just take some time out of their day. I mean, they could turn this interview off and just go and spend like a couple of minutes.
Turn the program off.
No, just this bit. And just spend a few minutes, because this is what I've been thinking. What can I do for Peace One Day today? And I was thinking that it really just starts with yourself. You have to really look at yourself and say, what am I doing today? And it only takes a couple of minutes to turn your phone off, go outside. Right now it's raining, go out in the rain, and have that new perspective. You wouldn't normally go and address the rain, but go and stick your head out there and get wet, and it changes your perspective a little bit. So just spending any amount of time considering what you're going to do, whether it's looking at some personal thing, maybe you've fallen out with someone and you want to make amends, just that at that level. We don't have to save the entire world today, right now, but you can start with a little action. It only takes a small action, 2 minutes of your time just thinking about what you could be doing, and you might notice, I should call that person, it's bugging me. Just go and give them a call and make amends to whatever the conflict might be. So it doesn't, I think Peace One Day is a sort of starting point for everyone to take action. Whatever it is they're going to address, just take a few minutes today. The inspirational speakers we've had on the show, unbelievable. And there's so many people who know everything about the whole world. You've got the UN guys, everyone telling you all these really wonderful, tragic as well, but stories. And they're really trying to save the world, as you are too. But not everyone has to do that. We just have to start with ourselves, just make ourselves a little bit better today, and step by step we can come into the bigger picture.
Listen, I'm glad you said that. I don't know whether that will be said again, because there are some really big issues going on that people are talking about, and so it's really wonderful that you said that, because it is it has been this sort of mantra, hasn't it, at POD for about, well, I don't know, 20 or so years. You know, who will you make peace with today? Who will you reconcile your differences or forgive? I mean, you know, if you think about Mother's Day, we give our mums flowers and it's beautiful. If we think about Valentine's Day, we'll have a day. I mean, you think about these big international days, they've usually got some behaviour attached to it, which is what cements them.
Yeah.
So the idea that Peace Day is the day that we can say sorry and forgive and get together with loved ones that we might not have seen for a while is a wonderful thing. So thank you so much.
That is a good point. So everyone should now get on their phones and call that person who you haven't spoken to, because, you know, people dig their heels in sometimes, and I think, you know, if you can, one of the things I'd like to say about being in the ocean, actually, I think, is the fluidity of things. And I heard you asking questions to all sorts of people about what peace means to them. And I was thinking, you know, what peace means to me probably is fluidity of thinking, is that you can always by creating new perspectives, which I'm fortunate enough to get with the travel I do and the water sports I do and the way that the weather changes and I'm exposed to these new perspectives, then I think that helps keep my mind fluid. Because conflict, I guess, is essentially when people dig their heels in and they're not prepared to make a change. And so they've perhaps got more rigid thinking. And so finding a solution to become more fluid in your thinking allows you to, you know, pick up the phone and say, you know what, I'm going to call that person and say, let's make a change here. You don't have to say, I love you or whatever. You can just say, look, I'm upset about something, but I just wanted to share that I am upset and I'll get over it one day, and you know, we can move forward.
Nice one, Guy. I love that. I mean, and also, I mean, look, we've got 30 seconds left, but also you've reached out to the community. I mean, there's been many, whether it's footballers or rowers, you know, or windsurfers. I mean, a lot of different communities through sport, you know, are observing the day. And I know that you reached out, you know, to your community to get them involved today, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a stormy day, and I hope they're out there tearing it up in nature and thinking about, you know, making some changes in their life. Okay, well, Guy, listen, it's been amazing watching you and your incredible career and all your achievements on a windsurfer. And if to the audience, if you've never seen Guy sailing, then you just got to check out some of the videos, because he is absolutely incredible. All right, Guy Cribb, man. Listen, on the Peace Day Live, I love that, mate. Thank you so much, man. Yeah. Cool. Okay, cool.